Welcome everybody to another podcast. I'm pleased to be joined by Matt Smith. And Matt, it's been a little while since we've done this. I don't think we've done a podcast since the season ended, have we?
No, we haven't. I've been pretty busy here lately. Haven't been able to really make time for it, unfortunately. Sorry about
Yeah,
that.
that's okay. But a lot's happened, obviously, and
Yeah.
um, we're not going to get into all that today. But we're going to focus on kind of what's happening this week, and it's fast and furious. Um, I told you just as we were starting this, news of another guy hitting the portal just hit. So they are now down to there are currently zero defensive tackles on the roster for 2026. And as Tawfiq Thomas was the latest one, three defensive tackles have hit the portal today, Matt, with Gabriel Lightfoot, Christian Hudson, Tawfiq Thomas. It's now 14 scholarship guys that have hit the portal since the end of the season. So uh, there's different ways to view this, right? And so let's get your take on it. First off, I mean, obviously, call it a mass exit, call it exodus, call it what you want, but what's your take as what's going on right now?
Some of these guys expected, and nobody that I think that Tawfiq Byard really hurts. Alexander McPherson sucks.
Hmm.
Omarion Miller's a bummer. It's not the biggest surprise in the world, but still a very talented player that you
Hmm.
lost. Those three guys I project to probably be prospects at the NFL level. Tawfiq's pretty small, so he's going to have to overcome that. Omarion's not the best agility, athlete in the world.
Yeah.
He is an athlete, but there's a quick twitch element that's missing to him. He's more of a possession guy. And Alexander McPherson, I think, is like a baby Max Crosby with the right coaching. So that is a bummer. No question about it. Brandon Davis Swain, you're one younger defensive lineman that you actually committed quite a bit of time to and invested in. Unfortunately, you don't get to eventually reap those rewards if he becomes the player that, they hope that he can become. Again, this is the period where you're gonna, lose a bunch of guys. You go 3-9. You can't expect everybody to sign up for the same ride, even if it's just about money. There's an indication here with so many players gone that I would say there's a lot of guys that were unhappy with the situation last year and just don't really want to see it resolved or don't think it can be resolved. I don't know. I don't know what they're thinking. There's also a financial factor where maybe someone can get offered more at a different school. Not
Hmm.
necessarily that Colorado doesn't have the resource, but maybe they're not willing to offer what somebody else might be. That happens all of the time everywhere. So, I saw Coach Prime a couple weeks after the season, and he told me that there were going to be some guys that were going to hit the portal, but don't worry, they're ready for it. So I look forward to seeing what that looks like come January. And there have been a lot of different um, elements thrown into this that you and I really haven't discussed yet as far as how this team looks moving forward. But yeah,
Hmm.
overall, bummers for sure because you're losing parts of your core that you wanted to build around. Now, maybe that's what we thought you wanted to do. Doesn't necessarily mean that's what they wanted to do. So it's hard to know without understanding what's going on behind the scenes. But from the outside looking in, you definitely lost some talented players. It doesn't mean you can't get more, but it's you still got to do it. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of my overall take.
As you were talking just now, Draylon Miller has hit the portal.
Well, there you go. Yeah,
He
so
was
that's
he
kind
was
of what
one
I'm
that I
saying.
was told was looking like he was on board. So he is not. So
What do
you
you want
know,
me to say? What do you want me to say? I mean,
yeah.
Draylon had a disappointing season. They
Mhm.
changed positions, and I don't think they used him as well as they could have. Now, let me just say this also. The offense didn't utilize anybody as well as it could have. Pat Shermer's
Right.
system sucked, and his scheme was terrible, and he didn't adjust very much. Now, they had enough talented players to execute some of it, but it wasn't because of the offense. If they won, it was in spite of it, quite frankly. It
Yeah.
was plays that were made outside the structure of it. You think of those sincere deep balls, Staub check to those. You know what I mean? The
Mhm.
throws that Salter hit on the run, he's making plays outside of the pocket. That's not necessarily the design of the play. So it's not a surprise. Here's the thing is you just don't get a lot of time in college, especially if you're a talented player. If
Yeah.
you stack 2 bad years, that's tough to overcome. And if you're in a place where you trusted a coaching staff and you feel like unfortunately, they didn't deliver for you or didn't put you in the best position to succeed, or you didn't get the best coaching, or you feel like, hey, look, this just isn't a great fit here, then I get the desire to leave. Now, this is also, and I'm just putting this out there because, again, we don't know. There's part of this that I'm sure Coach Prime has had a hand in and the staff has had a hand in where they said, look, you're just not a fit here, or maybe we just don't think we can make it work here anymore. So I'm not saying it's a one side of the equation situation going on. It's impossible to know what it is. However,
Yeah.
you are losing some of the more talented players on this roster. So it is a concern to me overall. That being said, they have the last thing, and I'll share this, the last thing that Coach Prime said to me, I said, good luck this offseason. And he said, I don't need luck. And I said, you make your own luck? He said, no, I got God. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they put together. They have made a very intriguing hire with Brendan Marion. When they made that hire, my first thought was, well, you're going to need some guys that are going to fit that scheme. And no one's going to really know what that looks like better than Marion.
Yeah.
And from what I'm told, he's a master recruiter, and I'm sure he's on the trail right now and trying to find guys that fit what he wants to do because it's not really a traditional offense. And I think you might run into some issues finding guys who are looking for NFL development playing in this kind of college specific offense. Now, it doesn't
Yeah.
mean you can't, but I think that's a potential hurdle you might have to overcome if your whole goal is NFL, not NIL. So again, I've got a lot of thoughts. We haven't talked about a lot of this, but that's my initial takeaways and reaction.
Yeah. And with, Draylon just hit, and, I think there's a lot of reasons guys are going to the portal. A guy like Draylon is one that, as you're talking about Brendan Marion, I look at him like, is that one that maybe was not a good fit? And maybe Brendan Marion looks at him and says, you're not the type of running back that fits my system, and he's not the type of receiver that really fits this system, right? And so maybe he's a player that doesn't totally fit the system. um Sac State's entire running back room, I think, is in the transfer portal right now, and don't be surprised if Marion's got his guys coming in here. So uh, to me, Draylon's not a pure running back. He's not a pure receiver. I don't know if he was the best fit for this offense or not. So I will say, Matt, Coach Prime, towards the end of the season, when he was talking about the portal, said, let's be honest here. The reason guys enter the portal is money. I think that's part of it, but I think that Coach Prime has to be honest with himself, and that's not the only reason guys are entering the portal. There's a mix of there's guys that don't believe in what they're doing over there, and they're leaving. They want to get out of this program. There's guys that are leaving for money. There's guys that are leaving for because they weren't playing enough, and there's probably some guys that the coaching staff said, "Look, we need you to move on." So there's probably a mix of all those things. There's no one reason, and we don't know all these reasons. So, um, yeah. And I also say this: I'm not one that's going to sit here and tell you everything's going great. It's going to be just fine. But I'm also not going to panic and overreact because this is just the first part of it, and the second part is them acquiring players, and they're going to bring in a whole bunch of players. They're going to bring in some talented players, some guys people are excited about, and it really just comes down to can they coach them up and can they make it work? And we're not going to know until next September, October, November. We're going to find that out, but they're going to bring in some guys that people are excited about. I know that.
There is another side of this coin that if they are serious about raising the standard back to what they upheld last year, and I believe them to be, don't you agree that that's what their goal is? I mean,
Mhm.
whether or not you think they're going to be able to do it is a different story, but that's at least the intention here, correct?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so.
So if that's the case, what they put on the field last year ain't going to cut it. And it's not even going to come close. It
Yeah,
really needs to be a complete overhaul.
yeah,
So if this happens to be even a guy like Omarion Miller, Coach Prime criticized his lack of leadership. He didn't step up and take the mantle that they needed him to this year in many ways. Can't be coming back late from a bye week, dude. I don't know what happened, but like you can't do that. Get back a day early, or
yeah.
don't go.
Hmm.
It's unfortunately you just don't have a lot of time. You don't. And I know that bye week is important to get away from football, but if you're one of those leaders, there are sacrifices that need to be made. And unfortunately, that message wasn't received. And maybe he just didn't agree with that message in general. And maybe it just wasn't a good fit. But I also see it from the perspective of, well, if you're actually trying to put your face on the flat irons, most of those guys that played this year, and a lot of them probably shouldn't be on the roster next year.
Yeah.
Like even Brandon Davis Swain, you invested a lot in. I I didn't really see anything very special there, and that's not because he left. And I'm just being very blunt now. This is a very bottom line business now. We might as well be. I didn't really see anything that could be, game changing there. Maybe if you invested by senior year, that's a rock solid defensive tackle. I'm not sure. Again, that's just a one guy's opinion on the situation. And so, if you really are trying to compete for national championships, you got to get better players in here.
Yeah.
My problem is based upon the landscape of where college football is in this offseason. It's not the way it was last year, and it's not the way it was the year before. It has changed 3 times over in the
Yeah.
last 3 years. In this offseason, I am highly skeptical at Colorado's ability to pull some of the top players out of the portal. Highly skeptical for several reasons. I'll tell you why. One, I'm not sure that they're going to have the resources because now there's nothing to recruit with really other than opportunity and playing time. There's no buzz. The buzz is out of the building after you went 3-9 immediately after
Hmm.
a Heisman season. Everybody's beliefs that you could only win with Travis and Shador nationally now are justified. And so now you're going to have to fight that battle. And what are you recruiting with? Money? Okay, great. Well, if you're one of the top guys in the portal, chances are you've got offers from 20 schools, and
Yeah.
chances are somebody's probably going to be willing to bid more than you. Maybe not necessarily because they have more money than you, but maybe because they value that position more, or they have a bigger position, a bigger need at that position more than Colorado does, so they're willing to offer more. And as a result, the Buffs will have to continue to go down the line to the next on the list and the next on the list and the next on the list. At the end of the day, what does that look like when you have to do this for almost a complete team? They've got to rebuild the offensive line more or less. They have to completely rebuild the defensive line. The front seven is a complete redo. You know what I
Yep.
mean? It's
Hmm.
it's Chip and Joanna Gaines bringing the demo crews in there and tearing it down and building it back up. And secondary is pretty close to the same, I'm gonna guess. So you're gonna have to get all of that out of the portal. Not only are you gonna have to get all of that out of the portal, you have to get the leadership that you didn't have this year out of the portal.
Hmm.
If you're not going to get the top guys at every position, which there's just no way you can do,
Right.
that's not going to happen. You're going to have to hit at a really high rate. So now there's a ton of pressure on them, especially if you're trying to be competitive this upcoming year, to hit at like a 70% rate out of the portal. And I'm not even exaggerating because this year I think it was about a 30% hit rate out of the
Hmm.
portal. Next year it's going to have to be way better. And again, there's an element to, okay, so if you have that type of a structure and that type of an environment that you have to deal with, then what you're probably looking at is a team that you can probably pull an average to slightly above average team out of the portal strictly just on paper as a Power Four school. Now it becomes, can you coach that team from being average to good or good to great, right? And unfortunately, the hodgepodge of guys last year, they just really didn't get through to at any point
Hmm.
in the year. And now I think they missed a lot in the portal, and certainly Coach Prime's absence played a factor. But he was also there for the whole season. And it wasn't like they continually got better throughout the year. There were some times it didn't like completely explode until later in the year when they had to play teams that were
Yeah.
just, dollars for donuts better than they were. But
Right.
it also didn't demonstrate an ability to be able to take a team that's average to good. So I think it's natural to be skeptical that that's going to happen, number one. And I think number two, it's also natural to be skeptical that they might struggle to pull a very high quality class out of the transfer portal, including all of those essential ingredients that they needed last year and unfortunately could not find. So I'm not saying it cannot be done because I know it can be done. It's happened all across the country. You just got to be way better than you were last year, unfortunately.
So let me ask you this, and then I'll give you, my thoughts as well. But like, when you say 70% hit rate, to do what?
To field like a bowl team out of
Okay.
thin air.
Okay. Because I mean, because you mentioned, compete for national championships. I think,
Yeah, that's not
the,
happening next
yeah,
year. Yeah, no,
uh,
no.
that talk of Colorado needs to be thrown out the window. That's not happening at Colorado
Mm-mm.
again, in my
No.
opinion. I
Not
don't think
without
Colorado,
that type of
under
talent.
under this current landscape, unless there's some sort of regulation to level the playing field,
Yep.
Colorado will never compete for a national championship ever again.
Agreed.
And there's got to be either a leveling of the playing field,
Collective bargaining.
or
That's what has
or
to happen. Yeah.
or you need a big time donor to a
You need
Texas
your
Tech
own Cody
donor to
Campbell. Yeah. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So without those things, Colorado will never compete for a national championship again. That's just my thought. So so I agree with you. The goal has got to be you need to get back to a bowl game. There's got to be some respectability next year. You're in the postseason. You're 7-5, whatever. That would be a really nice turnaround for this program. So I think you can do it. I agree with you. They're not getting the top guys. That's out the window to me. You can't afford them. I believe, Matt, that Colorado, and there's a lot of schools that are in this boat. It's not just Colorado. But I think Colorado's got to they're the Oakland A's, the Moneyball Oakland A's. You've got to figure out a way to make the most out of what you can afford. You're gonna, and they didn't this year. They got some cheap guys, and they didn't play well, right? But you're gonna have to hit on those guys better. You mentioned, I would agree with you, probably around 30%. That's got to double this next year. It's got to be 50, 60, maybe 70%, but I think you got to double that hit rate from this last year. And if you can do that, I think you'll be fine. I think you can fine as far as like getting to that bowl game. But that's a lot. I mean, you're looking at probably 50 transfers coming in here this next year, and you need 25 of them to be really good, 25 to 30 to be really good for you.
Yeah.
Um, and so, but you can do it. I think they can do it, Matt. It's just for anybody to expect them and the Buff and they should, but Buff fans, when some elite receiver or defensive lineman, from Alabama enters, a starter from somewhere enters the portal, Buff fans are going to get excited and say, man, I'd love to have this guy. That's great, but you're not going to get him. The top guys are not coming here. They just won't. Colorado cannot afford them. That's the game that college football is right now. But what you have to do is land looking at this last year, a Gabriel Lightfoot from a Fresno State who got hurt and couldn't play. You've got to get a guy like that and have him stay healthy and be a productive player for you, right? That's what you need. A Tavian Coleman who came in from Texas State, he was playing okay, and then he gets hurt and misses the rest of the year. You can't. You have to have luck with some injuries, and you've got to hit on some guys. You've got to find some linebackers that were better than what you found this last year. You mentioned as far as rebuilding everything, Matt. I'm looking right now. Defensive line, I told you before that there's 0 defensive linemen on the roster for next year, so that's a complete overhaul. Defensive end, as of right now, there's 4 scholarship guys on the roster. One of those being Sam Okunlola, who I think most of us think is on his way out, but there's no news of him being in the portal as of right now, so I'm counting him right now. Inside linebacker, you have one. Well, not counting freshman, right? Returning player, Kylan Salter. That's it. Couldn't get on the field this year. Cornerback, you have
Which, by the way, what incentive does he have to stay?
right. So
Yeah.
other than he does have the history with Coach Prime that Caden did
Right.
not, and so
Okay.
who knows? Again, that could be an opportunity thing that he
Maybe
said.
just opportunity. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Cornerback. There's currently 3 on the roster from this last year. One of those being DJ McKinney, who I think most of us don't expect to be here, but maybe he will. Um,
I'm not sure on him, to
I'm
be
not sure
honest
on him
with you.
either.
I think he might be here.
I, I'm not sure on him, but I think there's a lot of speculation that he's gone, right? But that's one of the
Yeah.
3. RJ Johnson just a little bit ago posted he's in, I believe, so he's in, but Makari Vickers is the other. And then safety, you're down to Ben Finnessith, John Slaughter, and Carter Stoutmeyer right now. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's 11 scholarship players on this year's defense that are left.
Yeah, like I said, you have to
That's probably a
rebuild.
good thing
Yeah, again, at least left that we know of as of now. That
as of
number
now.
could
Yeah.
change. Yeah,
That's going to be
absolutely.
single digits, I expect.
I'm guessing it to be. Someone else is going to leave. I don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, does London Merritt look around and go, well, Alex left, I don't, and they're roommates. So I'm sure
Yeah.
those guys talked about it. So who knows, Brian? It's look, Coach Prime always seems to have a plan. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt in that they are working on what their plan is gonna be. I know for a fact because I've got common sense and eyeballs that whatever the plan is, they're working up on the fly because that's how it works when you have to replace everything that you're doing and
Mhm.
just start over really, as you're going,
Yeah.
considering the schedule. However, the good news is it sounds like I've heard some interesting things about Brennan Marion. I think it was an exciting hire to get somebody like that.
Hmm.
But to your point, the money ball thing that you brought up is interesting because I've said this to people like, the go-go offense, as I just brought up to you earlier, it's a college offense. It's kind of like a gimmicky thing. And that might be the way they have to do it now. It just
Hmm.
might be. I think maybe the thought of really trying to get some of the top guys in the country. You have Jordan Seaton for now. You have Julian Lewis for now. I'm hoping that neither one of those guys leave, because I think
Lewis has he threw out yesterday.
yeah,
All these guys
yeah.
are leaving. This is an opportunity, and he threw out his commitment. So
Yeah, and he's been steadfast in that, and
yeah.
I believe
Mhm.
that. And so, and I saw the post his dad had where he basically said, "Look, everybody forgot about Julian when Caden committed to CU, but it didn't really ever matter about the outside noise in the first place." So,
Yeah.
Coach Prime has always been consistent in saying that, he really respects that dynamic that Julian and his father have, and the perspective that they have as well. So I think that's a demonstration of that, and it's a credit to them, quite frankly, because Julian could go somewhere else and compete somewhere else. But as of right now, I mean, he is the shoe-in starter for next year. There was a
Yeah.
thought maybe based upon the way Caden played and based upon the way this year went that, yeah, no, you definitely got to get a quarterback. And I think they will, but they're going to have to invest too much everywhere else to actually go get like a guy that you wouldn't mind turning the keys over. It's Julian's team. We're agreed there, right? Like
Yeah.
they don't have a choice. They're
And,
not going to be able to get somebody like that.
and yes, I agree with you. And to your point, I wonder because they had to pay a lot to get Julian, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And from what I've
And
heard, it
Caden
was
got money
and
too.
Caden got
Yeah,
money too. So you're paying two quarterbacks this year. Did that prevent them from getting enough talent in other spots?
it might have.
It might have. And so you can't pay top dollar. You're paying top dollar to Julian Lewis. That's part of why he's staying. You
You're gonna have
can't
to
do
pay
that.
some linemen some good money.
You got
We
to
know
pay some
that.
linebackers. You got to pay a bunch of guys, right? And so um, there's things like that that you're like, okay, you can take all that money you had for Caden and use it on these other spots, and you go grab. What's going to happen is, all the top guys. We mentioned Josh Hoover and
Yeah,
all these quarterbacks that are entering the portal after massive seasons. The kid from North Texas, who led
Mestamaker.
yeah
Yeah,
who led the country in passing. They're going to go on big. They're going to get big time money and go places. What's going to
Sorsby, Levitt, those
Yes,
guys, the
yeah, all
top
those
returning
guys.
quarterbacks. It right now the way it is, why wouldn't you jump in the portal and go somewhere else and make?
Right,
I heard Mestamaker, they're talking about 3.5, $4 million. Why
right,
the hell would you stay at North Texas? It makes no sense, you
right.
know?
But my point is like what Colorado is going to have to do is let the dust settle on all that, and then
Yeah,
who's still sitting there,
yeah.
and you find a guy that's he jumped in the portal for an opportunity. Nobody's really biting on him, but he's got a little bit of experience. So you go grab him, say, "Hey, come in here and be our backup." You
Which
know,
is why I think we were all wondering what Coach Prime might do because this is a tough job right now. And it's not that he's not up for that, but to win like this is gonna be almost impossible,
yeah,
truthfully. I
hmm
mean, I said to somebody the other day that if he gets it back to where it was or even close from here, it's probably considering the environment that 2025, 26 will be compared to what 2022, 2023 was, I think it'll be a more impressive accomplishment because
hmm
I don't know how Colorado is going to compete in this environment unless all of a sudden there's a whole bunch of money coming in that we don't know about. And see, here's the thing: is the Big 12 just signed that private equity deal with was it Redbird Capital and Weatherford Capital or something like that, and you can opt in to, I think it was $30 million of a credit line if you want to. And maybe they do, and maybe you just lean into that hard and try to regain some
I'm not sure
uh,
CU is going to do that. To be honest with you,
and see there's my point. And so what other option do you have? I
yeah,
don't know that you do. Like the thing is, and here's the truth. Utah's putting the money they're putting into their program. It's an insane deal what they're doing. They're competing now. It'll be Utah, BYU, and Texas Tech for this year that just run away with the Big 12 because I don't know how anyone else is going to be able to compete. I
yeah.
just don't. And so what comes next for everybody else? And that's where we're going to see, we might have to just see like one of the most lopsided years ever in college football before things have to really, before everybody's like, okay, we got to collectively bargain with the athletes because we screwed it up. Like the balance of power is so out of whack now. The
Mhm.
haves have it all. It wasn't like before, like, okay, yeah, the haves have a competitive advantage. Now it's like the haves are going to have it all.
Right.
And so now how do you play it? And it'll probably lead to super conferences. I don't know how fast that's going to happen, but there's going to be a lot of schools left over. And what those schools try to decide to do to be to if they want to continue to have football, I think what's going to end up happening, I think, is you're going to see the top guys in this year's class just go Big Ten SEC and fill up all of those rosters and
Yep.
just, be like, oh, whew, I'm on the boat. I'm safe.
Yeah.
And then everybody else will go to all the other conferences. I think that'll
Yep.
be what happens. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. And again, it goes back to, is this what Coach Prime wants to do? I think he could be a catalyst as a voice of change if he has the strength to do it. I don't think he's going to be able to have the strength to do that, recover from what he's going through, and build a brand new team together all at once. So I don't know how it's going to go, but um, I wish them the best. He does. He says he's got God. I can't wait to see what he does. And it's not that I'm
Yeah.
not doubting him specifically. There's some of the coaching stuff that is in question for me. It's just more about the climate right now. I don't. I think it's a no-win situation, and I hope to be wrong. I
Yeah.
hope. I hope when we look back in the fall, we're like, God, Matt, be more dramatic. But I mean, from everything that I know, you know,
Well, again, like I said, in my opinion, it's you're gonna have to hit on some guys that they're gonna bring in some guys. Like I said, they'll bring in guys that people are excited about. They're gonna bring in some that people will be like, huh, really?
hmm
And they're gonna have to hit on those guys.
yep,
I'll give you an example of when they signed Simeon Price this last offseason.
yeah. Who?
I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
really?
yeah.
Like this is a guy that has 300 yards rushing in his career at Mississippi State and Coastal Carolina. He couldn't even start at Coastal, uh, and he comes in here in the first 4 games like, wow, he looks pretty good. And then he gets hurt. But they need to hit on guys like that. They need to find some diamonds in the rough, and that's no knock on CU at all. It's just the nature of CU. I mean, look, J.R. Payne in women's basketball and Tad Boyle in men's basketball are having to do the very same thing.
Yeah.
And that's just the nature of it at Colorado. Like I said, I think that Colorado is an Oakland A's school. You're going to have to just make it work with what you have and find some really, really nice things. Years ago, Matt, just a personal story. A friend of mine, I needed a car. This is years ago, like 20 years ago. I totaled my car. A friend of mine, he had a 93 Honda Accord, and he's like, it had 200,000 miles on it. He goes, hey, I'll sell it to you for $500. Like, yeah, that's fine. And I'm thinking, if I can get a year out of it with no car payments, that's great. I drove
Great.
that thing for 11 years. Uh, Actually, between me and my son, who took it over when he was 16, we had it for like almost 14 years.
That
Had
thing
three
could survive the apocalypse,
had
Brian.
380,000 miles on it, for $500. That's what the bus got to do. They got to find a 93 Honda Accord
An old
that's
feeder?
that's reliable, that they can get a lot of mileage out
Yeah.
of. And not one. They need a fleet of those 93 Honda Accords that they can
Yeah.
get for cheap, and that's just the way it is. But I
To be
don't.
honest, Brian, I don't see, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but
That's
as you're
okay.
talking, it's going to be fascinating. I've got a very pessimistic view of how everything's going to turn out. I have to be honest with you. And it's not because of what I know them to be doing behind the scenes or what they've done so far. It really is irrelevant of whatever that is that they're doing. Has
Yeah,
nothing to do with them. It's just about college sports and the position that they happen to be in, which is why you see these teams selling out because they know that if they don't, they're probably not going to have a seat at the table when the music stops.
yeah,
And if you're telling me that Colorado isn't going to play that game, then good luck. I
yeah,
don't know how you exist in this arena without doing that. Unless it's regulated, which you tell me, did you hear about the meeting to sit down and collectively bargain with the players? I didn't hear about it. It ain't on the schedule.
yeah.
So until that happens, what I mean, what we're gonna
And
and the last thing I'll say, sorry, all these coaches are like, we have so much pressure on us. It's like Chris Kleiman, at Kansas State, who's crying after the Utah game, going, all these fans every year are putting pressure on these coaches who can't get the job done. They couldn't
Yeah.
win no matter how good of a job they do. So it doesn't mean that it can't happen on a one-off or one program like in Indiana and Signetti can't get it exactly right and figure out the system while also simultaneously still being, oh, by the way, in the Big Ten. They're in
Yeah.
one of the best conferences. So I don't know. It's a weird environment right now.
Yeah. And I will say it's not that Colorado doesn't want to play the game. They want to play the game. Their goal is to be in one of those chairs when the music stops. However, there are a lot of limitations on Colorado, and I just think they're going to have to somehow make it work. I'm pessimistic. I share your pessimism as far as the whole grand scheme of things. I think it also depends on what are your expectations for this program. If you're and Buff fans should feel this way. Coach Prime's going to feel this way. If their goal is to win the Big 12 and be in the CFP, then yes, your outlook should be very pessimistic because I don't know how that's going to happen. For me, I look at it and say, get back to a bowl game. And in that regard, I'm not pessimistic. I feel confident they can do that. I think that there's
Good.
going to be enough talent out there that they'll cobble together. Um, and then they got to coach them up, obviously. But I think I like at least the first couple moves on the coaching staff so far. I think there's some upgrades there. But if you're looking at it, and I think the realistic view, Matt, is to look at it and say in 2026, Colorado needs to be in a bowl game. Forget competing for the Big 12 title, but if you get to a
Yeah.
bowl game, and I agree with what you said earlier, if Coach Prime takes what it is right now today at 3 o'clock on this Friday, and all these players are leaving, if he takes it from this to a bowl game 12 months from now, I think that's a more impressive job than what he did 4-8 in 2023 and going 9-4 in 2024.
I'll honestly have more respect for him. And it's not
Yes.
because I don't now. It's because that's how highly I would think of that achievement. I
Yes.
think that achievement, based upon where they're at right now, would be quite frankly remarkable. And it doesn't mean that it can't happen. It happens every year. You see it every year. But they have those typically those teams have some carryover to it, or
Yeah.
you're bringing a whole new team to an area to do this. Quite literally, bake the Thanksgiving dinner out of scratch. It's gonna be one of the most remarkable things you've ever seen, and I wish them the best. I truly do. I can't wait for them to shove it in my face. And it's not that I'm hoping or predicting or I'm attached to that my opinion on December 19th being right. It's like I look forward to them being like, haha, world, we're still here. Like, show me that. I would love to see it. And
Yeah.
not because I'm not saying that sarcastically. It's like I would love to see that. I
Yeah.
don't know how you get there from point B to from point A that they're at right now. I
Yeah.
don't know how it happens.
And I will say this: look, I've given the A's analogy. The A's made the playoffs and did a
Yeah,
lot of really good things, so you can do it.
that one
Uh,
year.
well, for years, I
I'm
mean,
teasing. I'm
Billy
teasing.
Bean
Yes,
did
I
a
know.
nice
I
job with
know.
that, on a budget. Um,
It eventually all fell. The bottom
it
completely fell
did,
out
it
eventually.
did, it
Yeah,
did.
yeah.
I know, it's not no holes in this theory. I know there's not that, but
By the
um,
way, that might be what happens to Colorado anyway when this whole
yeah,
ride ends, is the bottom might just fall out. You never know. That
yeah,
might be what happens.
yeah.
I mean, they
Well,
still need an athletic director. They're trying to do all this without an athletic director.
yeah.
I don't know if you have any news on that, but
No, they're searching, and it'll be soon. I know that, but yeah, I mean, some would say the bottom is falling out right now. I
yeah, I
don't
don't know if I
necessarily
would
think
go
so.
that far. I wouldn't go that far yet. I'm not going to be full panic mode, but I know how much work there is to do. I'll say this, if I were them, I'd probably be in semi panic mode,
Yeah,
only because holy cow, it's got to be overwhelming at the sheer amount of work you have to do. They've had to
yeah,
replace a lot of elements of their recruiting staff, which I'm sure was months in the making anyway. But,
yeah.
there's an element to that where you've got to find a new rhythm there as well. And, you're trusting people that you haven't worked with yet, and Brennan Marion a lot to get the job done.
Hmm.
So we'll see, and I wish them the best of luck. And the truth is that you're right. What you said is very important. And this fan base is probably going to have to adjust their expectations. But if you're really trying to win a Big 12 championship here, they're going to have to do something we haven't seen yet. And if you want to call me a hater for thinking that that can't happen, that's fine with me. I really don't care. But I think it would just be stunning
Yeah.
to pull that off from where they're at right now would be as good of a story as you could find in college football, considering
Yeah.
where things have gone.
And I think you would agree with me on this one, when I because I agree with you on that. That's not a knock on Coach Prime. That's
At
just the
all.
reality of what
0%. Yeah.
Colorado is. I
None of
mean,
this is a reflection, quite frankly, as I said on Coach Prime, except for I think some of the coaching stuff because I
yeah,
just haven't seen it yet. Yeah.
yeah, there's some of that, but I mean, as far as like us talking about their our non-belief that they can compete for a Big 12 title, that's
He
not
doesn't
about
have the
Coach
he
Prime.
doesn't have the bullets.
That's just, I mean, it's hard to do that when you're operating,
Hmm.
behind the eight ball compared to your peers, and that's just the way it is. And Colorado's not one of the blue bloods. They're not even close. There's a lot of schools that are in Colorado's boat, but you know, uh, it's not a knock on Coach Prime. I honestly think that if Coach Prime gets this program to a bowl game in 2026, that's one of the better coaching jobs in the country.
The last thing I'll say is that it is also possible that when once we get back to the season, our opinion changes again because
Yeah,
the truth is that Texas Tech, excuse me, that's a bad example. Cincinnati, Arizona State, schools like that might be right in the same boat with CU in
yeah,
that they're just trying to figure it out and trying to figure out how to stay alive. So you might be competing on their level, but it's just at a much lower
yeah.
level than it was in the past, which is entirely possible. And it
That's the
might
thing is,
be, yeah, go ahead.
sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
No, you're
The
fine.
bulk of their schedule is going to be teams in the same boat,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so that's you can compete with that. You don't have to
You would
compete
think you
with
could. You would think you
you would
could.
think you could,
Yeah, right. Yeah.
but I'll pull it up here, but like I don't know their full schedule for next year, but like um you're not playing Texas Tech and
Yeah, you are.
yes, but I mean every week. What I'm saying, you're not
Oh,
playing
oh,
them
oh.
every week. So yes, you do play Texas Tech. You don't play Utah next year. Um, so you look at the schedule. Georgia Tech, are they in the blue blood boat?
No, they just lost
No.
their backup quarterback too.
Okay. Weber State, no.
Although,
North.
take it back, Georgia Tech just got $20 million donated to them. Two
Okay.
separate, like $10 million donations. I just
Okay.
saw that. Yeah.
That's fine. Northwestern, Big Ten school. We'll
Mhm.
see.
They'll be the same Northwestern team they've been since I've been a kid.
Right.
It's a 5-7 to 7-5. That's Northwestern football, baby.
So in
Yeah.
theory, you compete with that, right?
Yeah.
Central Florida.
Hopefully. Yes. In theory,
Central
hopefully.
Florida, you're competing with that. Houston, they probably got more money than you, but I I still think there's more attractive teams in Houston that players are going to. Kansas State's probably in your same boat now. Texas Tech, you're not competing with that. Oh, they do have Utah. Sorry, um, Utah is up there. Arizona State, Baylor, Cincinnati, Oklahoma State. You're
We'll
probably in
see
the
what
same
we'll see
boat,
what Kenny's able to leverage out of ASU if he doesn't take the Michigan job.
right?
Because if he doesn't, they're going to commit a whole bunch of money to, I mean, that's what they're working on right now. He's
Yeah,
just in the midst of trying to leverage them into trying to somehow get on the same level. But, I mean, the reason why we're saying this, and ASU is the perfect example, like Kenny Dillingham takes the backup quarterback at Michigan State, develops him. He's got him all ready to go. They make one run to the college football playoff. They win a Big 12. And now, here you go, senior year, let's go.
yeah,
And he's gone.
yep,
And so that's going to happen every year at ASU. So if you're cool with that and living next to your mom and your sister and being where you're from in Scottsdale, that's great. He can have an amazing life as the head coach of Arizona State and win 5 to 9 games every year and be fine.
yeah,
Or, you could get in the game and go
yeah,
to Michigan. So we'll see what happens.
yeah. Well, Matt, so much to unpack. There's gonna be a
Yeah.
lot more as we get into the new year and the portal opens. We'll have plenty of players to talk about coming in. Let's catch up after the holiday. But for now, happy holidays to you and your family, and we'll talk to you soon.
Are you guys going to the beach?
Yeah. Uh, whatever beach we can find in northern Minnesota, we'll be there.
Oh, is it the annual van trip?
Yeah. Not annual, but what's that called?
Semi-annual?
Semi-annual. Yeah.
Yeah, semi-annual. We're
Yeah.
loading up the van and we're National Lampoon's vacationing it across the country,
There you go.
strapping grandma to the roof.
There you go. Are you going
Okay.
to a beach?
No, no, I'm working. I'm working.
Well,
Listen, 7 to 10 a.m. Altitude Sports Radio 92.5.
awesome,
All right,
Matt.
buddy. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye.